Mark, you look perplexed.
Yeah, I'm going through this Origins book trying to find answers to a riddle on why John Ridley is such a terrible writer.
Ooh. Oh, you know what? Put a pin in that, and we'll talk about that right after this. I've always wanted to say put a pin in that. Um,
Said
and,
it.
and now I have.
You've done it.
Exactly. Um, this is DC Comics Deep Dive. Before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Hit the notification bell. So that way you're alerted whenever we upload new content. We are hot and heavy into DC Comics summer event known as Absolute Power. Um, and I just realized I played the Ghost Machine
I
intro
see
instead of
that. It was
actually
awesome. Yeah.
instead of the regular one, but that's okay. Um,
Ghost
so
Machine is always
it
appropriate.
is absolutely, absolutely. So we had three entries actually this week. Yeah, John Jang, man, that's so pretty. That's so pretty. You should give one of those away.
I have. I've
And
actually be up to two of them coming soon.
right, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's even yeah. I think I like that one even better than the Green Arrow one.
Yeah.
So. So we had three entries this week. We have the start of a new series, Absolute Power Origins, delves into the history of Amanda Waller. We have Task Force 7 number 2, which deals with depth charge, and we have Green Arrow number 14, which is a tie-in because, as you know, Green Arrow happens to be the only one of our heroes that actually has sided with Amanda Waller, or
Yeah,
has he?
what a chump. Or has
Exactly.
he?
Hmm. But we're going to start actually with Absolute Power Origins, written
So to
by yeah,
preface this book, what this is a 3-issue miniseries that's been included in this Absolute Power event. Amanda Waller is the driving force of the villain's side of all of this, and they decided to do like a retelling and expansion on Amanda Waller's origin. It's very well known that she's lost loved ones and she blames metahumans. So that's what we're going to be exploring in this 3-issue miniseries by John Ridley. Beautiful cover art. I was very
hmm,
excited for it until I heard John Ridley was on it. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. He let me down with issue 1 right here, and I guess we can go from there.
sure, sure. Mark, taking one for the team. Uh, so we start out actually. There's a juxtaposition between the origin of Bruce Wayne and Batman and Amanda Waller and what has happened in their two lives. And so we see the Thomas and Martha Wayne killed in an alley by Joe Chill, and then we see what happened to Amanda Waller and her family, her daughter, her husband, everything. And those two kind of play side by side for a couple pages.
Yeah, they show what happened specifically. We get an idea that the husband went out angrily after a known criminal and drug dealer on the streets who assaulted and killed their child. So he went to get his revenge and he died in the process.
Correct. And then we see Commissioner Gordon talking about everything that happened with Joe Chill and everything, and without saying Batman, Amanda is watching this at the same time, and she, kind of assumes obviously that there's a vigilante that's out there. With I think the distinction being between the two is that Batman was able to apprehended the villain without killing the villain. Whereas in Amanda Waller's situation, her husband killed the person that raped and assaulted their child, and he died in the process as well.
Yeah, so you get a little bit of different timeline here because the time has gone by.
Right.
Obviously, since the death of the Waynes, the Waynes passed away. Then Amanda Waller's husband passed away, and about that time, years later after the Wayne murders, when the murder gets solved definitively, Joe Chill gets
Mhm.
apprehended and gets tied to the murder of the Waynes. So she's struggling in a sense that because of what her husband did, their family is suffering from it. That he's not absolved of all crimes in the process of getting his revenge, and their family struggling because of that. I think that then they mentioned something about not getting the life
She will
insurance.
not. She will not get the insurance because
Yeah, because he
exactly.
went out and murdered a man and died in the
Right.
commission of a crime. It's
Right.
doesn't take a rocket scientist. And this is where the book gets absolutely redonkulous here. She decides to do something about it, about her husband not getting what she feels is rightful justice. So she goes and gets hired on in a campaign for city council, right? Marvin Collins, who's just a councilman for Congress.
Correct. But before she does that, she's at the police station. She gets handed a file. She looks at a file that has to do with her husband, what happened with her husband, and she sees it and she says, I guess there are no good people or bad people.
Yeah, and she says, I can't just do nothing anymore. And that's where she sets out to make a
Right.
difference, put the best foot forward, and starts working diligently for this campaign while she's watching these vigilantes go about their life. She's just doing the right thing and fighting for the underdog here who's like, just knows that he can't win, but she's putting in all the effort, all the work, working late nights, straining relationships with her kid, getting to know the candidate's wife and figuring out why they do what they do and want to do and make it how they want to make a change, and she believes in their cause.
Right.
You
And
spend a lot of time campaigning.
and she's not getting paid. She's doing all this on a volunteer basis. She's there from first light in the morning until well after sunset. She's basically putting in hours and hours and hours. Meanwhile, we get some quick flashes to Batman fighting crime throughout the city. And the reason why she wants this candidate to win is because
From vigilantes.
exactly. Exactly. And she basically has this thing about vigilantes. And so she is then given a thumb drive,
With
which
dirt on it.
dirt on it on this person's on the candidate that she's for rival. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently on this there is nothing illegal, but there are things that people would not necessarily want to be shown to the general
Yeah,
public.
in my mind, it insinuated a potential secret relationship that the
Correct.
candidate was in some way, whether it be with a mistress or with a person of a not the same persuasion. Just something that would be uh, sexually motivated dirt on another candidate.
Correct. And he says, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to win by tearing apart somebody else. And that's when the true Amanda Waller comes out. The Amanda Waller that we all know and love, who has been planning this, who has been planning things since, Adam and Eve, basically. She basically says, yes, you will, because basically I know what you did. She says, I know how you were in cahoots with the Candyman, which was the name of the person that the
The
villain that
drug dealer.
actually, the drug dealer, right?
Yeah, when
She
he
says,
was at a smaller, what do you call it? When he was a smaller politician in the
right,
local area, he used to take a cut to look away from the crime happening in his district, including the drug dealer that took the life of her child and husband.
right. And, I know what you did and everything. And so, she says basically, what my wife would never stand for it. And she's like, what, your wife has her own problems now because what Amanda Waller was doing in the morning and at night, she was cooking the books to make it show as though this person's wife was skimming money from donations to themselves.
And treating herself.
Exactly. Um,
Yeah,
we
so she
also,
basically at this point says, "You're going to run the campaign I want you to run. You're going to run for what I want you to run, and I'm going to make sure you win." So she's using this person, blackmailing him as a proxy of herself in this position, and he's got to do it.
right. We get a shot a little bit earlier that I went into is Amanda Waller working on the computer on something called Project X that she says, is something that, that she's been mulling about. And, she basically just says, she kind of throws it off and just says, it's something I work on my spare time. Um, so, and so we end up with, because this information gets out to the public on his rival. He ends up winning the election, and basically now she says, you know what, it's time for me now to take it to everybody else. And
Yeah,
that's
she
kind of
says, "I'm going to war with every single one of these explicit."
right, exactly.
And that's where
And
it ends. So the point of this book, for one, it does showcase Waller, how she crafts and moves little things in a situation to make sure that she is positioned to get what she wants by the time she reveals that she even is after something. That is nothing new with Amanda Waller. But this issue kind of stretches out that process of seeing her in the trenches, seeing her doing the work, seeing how cunning she is, just right under your nose doing it. But the point of this book is to showcase why Amanda Waller hates metahumans.
mhm,
it completely misses the whole point. Her husband goes out angrily to seek revenge on a drug dealer, kills a drug dealer, and gets shot in the process and dies. So she blames metahumans. And it's a stretch. Like seeing that Batman cracks a case, which it isn't like that's the only case Batman ever cracked. It wasn't even like that was the first case Batman ever cracked. So why one day she's like, oh, he cracked a case. Now I'm mad that the insurance company is holding up our money because my husband's a murderer. Batman hasn't gone out and murdered anyone in cold blood like that. Like none of it made sense in that aspect of being specifically used to explain why she's so angry to a point that she's willing to take over not just this world, but multiple Earths
Right.
in order to rid this one of all metahumans. Makes no sense. There's no motivation in it whatsoever.
Right. The closest, I mean, I talked about this before, but the closest that I could find is that she is somehow, she has it stuck in her craw or whatever, that the metahumans are being treated differently for basically doing the same thing that her husband did. They're basically allowed to act and do what they want, as opposed to her husband, who went out and, basically, did what, honestly, what probably a lot of fathers would probably do.
Yeah,
And,
if we're doing some elongated man stretching, we can
yeah,
definitely come to that conclusion. But it's crazy that Batman's not a
yeah,
meta.
right.
She's mad at metahumans. He's not even a metahuman. And Amanda Waller, we have to assume that she's smart enough to be who she is, which they've shown us countless times in comics. She is that smart. But then this book has to make us think she's so stupid to think that metahumans are the problem.
Right. Right.
Like I can get just a power trip. That makes
Mhm,
more sense.
mhm.
It's called absolute power. Even Amanda Waller's always craved power and control. It would have been better if they just showed us that she has like a what is it like when you just have to be in control of a situation? A power
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I can't think of the term right now, but
But she has that term in
yeah,
spades.
exactly.
And they should have just like leaned into that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed far fetched.
Yeah, it was kind of. There was another interesting kind of a throwaway line too that I thought was kind of interesting. But at one point, she basically, when she's talking to somebody about these, metahumans and Batman and everything, they talk about having bows and arrows, and she says, you know what, someday you're going to wish that the only thing that's out there is bows and arrows, because that's basically what she's done
Yeah,
in
that's how
Absolute
it is.
Power.
Yeah.
It's only Oliver Queen is left. So
And speaking of Oliver Queen, we got our
yeah,
next installment in Green Arrow issue number 14 this week. It's a second issue under Green Arrow that is an absolute power tie-in.
correct. We start off with everyone who is left on the island. They're basically having this Zoom call with Batman and Nightwing, and basically what they're telling them is, look, we don't know what's going on with Oliver Queen. Something's going on. We don't know, but you guys are on the island. Stay on the island. The rationale being that Oliver has basically come after everyone, with Amanda Waller, except for them. And there's got to be a reason why. And so the safest place for them is to stay on the island.
And also the caveat that when everyone else is depowered and if this doesn't work out, we have y'all in reserve.
Right. Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
Um,
obviously, Roy doesn't like that plan. Roy gives a little pushback. And as soon as the phone call is over, Roy's like, that's it. We're going. We're going to help whether they want us to or not, but we're going to do it our way. And if it's an army of Amazos that's attacking everyone, we're going straight to the source.
correct. So they're going basically to Professor Ivo, um,
And
who basically.
conveniently know right where he is.
Correct, exactly. But Speedy also knows that in the time that Oliver has spent on the island, he has been busy in the time that he has been there, and so he takes the group down to the new Arrow Cave, where there happen to be three new jets.
Aeroplanes, if you will.
Exactly, and they all fly off to find Professor Ivo, because they do know exactly where he is.
Yeah,
But
this
we
is one of
flash.
the villains that tabs are kept on. Like that isn't a thing like where every super villain you just don't know where they are. If they're not doing nothing, you just leave them be, kind of thing, and hope for the best, I guess. But yeah, they
Correct.
go right to him.
Correct. We flash to the Hall of Order, where and it doesn't sound right, does it?
It doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
where Oliver is, and he's basically there. And one of the robots from Randall Waller comes up and says, "Are you
Bright.
plotting to exactly?
Yeah,
Are
the
you
robot Bright, the big villain.
right? Right?" He says, are you plotting when you're going to turn on us?" Um,
Yeah, and I like
uh,
how he just kind of brushes it off and keeps
yeah,
talking.
yeah,
He's got
exactly.
the inventory, the armory, and everything, and you see some issues going on there.
Right. And Bright doesn't have any sympathy for him, and he basically says, when all this is over, I'm going to burn your eyes out.
Yeah, it's gonna be
So they're
cool.
so they're having a moment, the two of them. We go back to Death Valley, which happens to be where Professor Ivo is. He's basically underneath the desert in Death Valley, and so Cheshire happens to know that, and so she knows where it is. They remove the sand, they pull open the hatch, and they go down and they find Professor Ivo, who is basically, looks like he's had some better days, basically.
Yeah, and
Um,
for context, it looks like Ollie. We get our first glimpse of him scheming behind the scenes with Waller, because in that conversation with Bright, he points out, I've been tasked with inventorying the armory and everything, and that's fine. That works great to a degree, because a lot of this stuff will not work or matter without its operator. So we need to go out and round up all the supervillains associated with these weapons.
correct, correct. Um,
What a slick way to get them off the streets when there's
yeah,
no heroes out there, right? That's what I took
exactly.
from that.
So they confront Professor Ivo. Speedy basically shoots something into his gauntlet that he's wearing, his weaponized gauntlet. Um, uh, there's kind of a quick thing where he's talking about all of these amazos and everything, and he says, you know what, they're not. He's not responsible for all of these abominations. And then he has a thought like abominos. Maybe I can call him abominos.
Yeah, Obama. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Um, so that was kind of cool. Um, so we then see Ivo basically sends the Tomorrow Woman. He activates her, who is a person that has fought the Justice League before, um, and she basically then comes after them too. Um, there's the whole battle that ensues. They actually end up back upstairs, up. Well, yeah, I guess upstairs, but back
Yeah,
in the
up in the
desert
desert.
again, um, and from out of nowhere, we basically see this jeep that comes out of nowhere. It's driven by Professor Ivo with Bright again, and he says that he's here to save him, and
Yeah,
then
during the middle of the fight, Dr. Ivo tries to skedaddle,
right,
and Bright has shown up to collect him and take him back to the Hall of Order so that they can get all the weapons and villains in the same place.
right, and then the story ends exactly where it started, with one of them saying, "We never should have left the island." Um,
So the next
so
issue, we should be getting the continuation of the fight between the Tomorrow Woman and
right,
the Arrow family. Pretty dynamic. Art was great. Pacing was awesome. Gave us some good context to what's happening. I think this was a great installment as a tie-in, and as well as being a Green Arrow book too. If all someone's doing is reading the Green Arrow title and not investing into the event, I think you're rewarded either way with this one.
yeah, absolutely, and that's been pretty much for the most part that's been the way that all of them have gone, which is good because you want to participate in the story to a large extent if you can, but also be able to move your own story forward as well.
Mm-hmm.
So. And the final, again, like we said, is Task Force 7, number 2. This one has Depth Charge, who is basically tasked with bringing in Arthur Curry. Um, but we start on a beach with the Doom Patrol.
Yeah, licking their wounds. You have Elastigirl sitting there waking up from almost drowning. Then you have Robot Man missing an arm walk up to her and uh, pick her up, make sure she's okay. And it flashes back to what happened. They were in an underwater submersible doing some stuff when all of a sudden they come to land and see they're being attacked, and their powers get wonky and shaken off, and they wake up on a beach.
Right,
Larry confirms it with the Negative Man having no Negative Man power. His
right.
skin's back to normal, and they ask him if he's sure. And it was cool because Negative Man's response was positive.
Positive. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yes. So we're clocking in with the Doom Patrol, and lo and behold, Tempest comes
Right.
up. and Tempest is talking to him, and they're like, "Yo, we got to get down to Atlantis. I know where they're heading." And then we cut to the battle.
Right. With basically depth charge there, basically saying that. Oh yeah, let me.
Yeah, you see Atlantis, and then you turn the page to a 2-page splash. I'm like, "Yo, that dude looks massive. Is that something wrong with the perspective?" No, he's ginormous because he absorbed the powers of the Doom Patrol, so he's
Right.
super sized. And dude, it was
Exactly.
super cool. Art's fantastic in this issue.
Yeah, Max Rayner, I think, was the guy. So then uh, we
Jackson.
see Jackson Hyde, who is basically there saying, "Look, I don't know what you're thinking. You're coming to Atlantis, but we're not just going to roll over. That's just not going to happen." And Depth Chart says, "Yeah, pretty much that is what's going to happen."
He's like, "Yeah, I
Um,
don't care. I'm going to kill you all."
yeah, exactly. And he throws into the middle of Atlantis. He throws a cube, and inside the cube happens to be Arthur Curry.
Yeah, and also there's something that we see with Depth Charge we haven't seen with the other ones. He has the ability to take people's powers without touching them, thanks to the abilities that he absorbed from the Doom Patrol. So he
Mhm.
takes Jackson Hyde's powers. We see Aquaman is in a cube under the ocean with no powers, with the potential to drown at any point. And now Depth Charge is using Atlantean powers to link in with the sharks and create a frenzy. But much like with Ghost Machine, since this is a Ghost Machine Easter egg episodes, it is a two-way street when you're linking with animals, and that link with the shark is creating a fight frenzy within Depth Charge. Aquaman begs his people to stand down, don't get hurt, just stay thy hand. And Depth Charge picks up Aquaman and says, "That ain't going to do it," and immediately starts attacking everyone. Doesn't care that they have given up the city, that you can have it. He wants them all dead. So they have to go out and fight. Aquaman's little safety cube is cracked and water's leaking in just in time for the Doom Patrol to get there and get him out of there and escape Atlantis with barely their lives.
Correct. And then we see basically Depth Charge makes his call to Amanda Waller and says, kind of like, I have some good news and I have some bad news type thing.
Well, he was
The
completely proud of himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was.
Atlantis
Basically,
is pacified.
right, right. However, I don't happen to have Arthur Curry anymore.
Yeah, she
Um,
said, excellent. The Atlanteans are going to be fantastic allies or
yeah,
valuable allies. She said, I'm afraid you misunderstood. I said Atlantis is
mhm,
pacified.
right. She's like, well, at least they're off the table, so I don't have to worry about it.
But one of them.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, well, wait a second. I got some more news for you. And that's when we find out that Arthur Curry and the Doom Patrol are basically on their way to the Fortress of Solitude, which we know from Superman, the Superman tie-in, and everything else. That's where all the heroes have gathered. Basically, is at the Fortress of Solitude. Um, and then we get a couple page backups, not really a backup, but they get them meanwhile. And we flash back to Steve Trevor again and Rick Flag, sorry, Sarge Steele. Um, and we basically have the start of everything's fine between the two of them, and you have a phone if you need a phone, and Steve Trevor takes it, undoes the receiver, says, yeah, although you really don't have any trust in me, because he shows him that he is basically wiretapped his phone, so he knows what's going on. And Sergeant Steele says, yeah, you know what, I don't really need you anymore. Slaps Steve Trevor with his iron hand, um, knocks him out, and basically says that we have a prisoner that we need to transport, and that's where the issue ends. So
Yeah, his storyline's moving quick. You bring him into the organization just to completely smack him and take him out and imprison him right off the bat. They
right,
wasted no time pointing out
yeah,
that Steve Trevor's not on board.
right, right. So three great stories. I thought the origins. So I'm gonna give it a little. I'm hoping that it's gonna by the time we get to the
There's
third issue, some
never
of
a
the things.
problem with the quality of writing from John Ridley. The problem is always in the context and the subject
Mhm,
of what he's doing. It's very weird.
mhm.
Very weird. I despise him. Not as a human being, but as a writer for DC Comics. As a human being, I'm sure he's perfectly fine. It would be great to have a coffee with, but I don't I don't care for his craft.
I don't really think you would like to have a coffee with him. You would not be able to stop yourself.
Like so Why don't you understand Superman?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be your first question. So, but we've got big news. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. This is episode 99, and we all know what happens after episode 99. We get episode 100,
Oh, okay, yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
next. It's the new math type of a thing. So,
Okay,
um,
this is that Common Core stuff that Al Gore was talking about. Got it.
exactly, exactly, exactly. No child left behind.
None.
Um, so our next episode will be on August 5th. It'll be on Monday, just like we've been doing. We'll talk about the latest issue of Absolute Power, which I believe actually will only be Absolute Power Task Force 7 number 3. I think it's the
Nice.
only one that comes out. So we'll talk about that. Maybe we can talk about Absolute Comics as well. We can talk about that a little bit. But because it is our 100th episode, it will happen on August 5th. It will be live. It will be Monday night, August 5th at 9:30 p.m. right here on this channel. And because it is our 100th episode, we wanted to give back to you folks for staying with us for 100 episodes and tagging along. So, if you recall, we started this with Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. And so one of the things that we're going to be giving away to someone is we have the Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, the hardcover, and
Oh
then we
wow.
have we have Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, World Without a Justice League, and we have Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Tales from the Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. So we'll give those to one lucky person.
Hopefully the trolls include Young Justice.
It does not. It's we are. You can thank us later if you win this. You are not getting Young Justice,
Oh
but
man, that's
but
funny. They didn't collect Young Justice in this stuff, huh?
they did. I just didn't buy it.
Good man.
Yeah. Then, if you recall, after Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, we moved on to Lazarus Planet and Night Terrors, and so one lucky person on there will also win Lazarus Planet and Night Terrors as well.
Wow.
The hardcover is there, and then we did the Gotham War, and then we did Beast World, and so we have the Gotham War,
That
and
was solid. That was
Beast.
really solid.
Yeah, Beast World has not been collected yet, but what you will receive are the 6 lenticular
Oh
issues
wow,
of
nice.
Beast World. So
And I
just
can confirm these are the high quality ones that you can do the fingernail thing on.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. These are nice. So we'll be giving 3 lucky people will win something. All you got to do is just make sure you're in the live chat. Again, it is Monday night, August 5th at 9:30, right here on this channel. As a thank you to you folks for staying with us for 100 episodes. But that's going to be it.
I would like
Um,
to go ahead and formally congratulate Brother John.
yeah, exactly. Brother John better not win Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths because he already has the entire
The
Dark Crisis.
entire thing in floppy, yeah.
Exactly, he does. So that would just be overkill. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But again, that's it. Hopefully you can join us. We'll be reminding everyone in all the chats and on our Instagram and every other good thing as well. But that's it. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Click the like before you go as well, because that helps us out as well. But that's going to be it. I am Paul. He is Mark.
But we are Legion.
And you're now leaving Sector 2815.
Do, do, do.